parties, which is short for United Nations Climate Change Conference. And it's the 28th time they've gotten together. So that's COP28. Now, if you're not skeptical, you should be. Remember the Paris Climate Accord? When these people get together, common sense gets turned on its head and thrown out the window. During this year's summit, citizens of the world's most developed nations, that would be us, will be told that we need to curb our excessive appetite for meat. Now, this will be the first comprehensive plan to bring the global agri-food industry in line with the infamous Paris Climate Agreement, right? Remember that? They say that the food systems account for a third of global greenhouse gas emissions, and much of that footprint is linked to livestock farming. From farm to fork to failure, these people will not rest until our standard of living is drastically reduced. They also want to limit your travel with a personal carbon allowance. Get a load of that. Now, when this stuff seems a little tinfoil hat related, it's not. It's in black and white for you to read. Your standard of living is under threat, and they want to see it reduced by up to 85%. And COP28 is the continuation of those climate accords that we saw in Paris, and the ball is already in motion. Now, my next guest has been sounding the alarm on this stuff for a while now. Please welcome to the show, Rebecca Walser. Rebecca, you have been out front, and got to give you some credit and a big shout out and an attaboy, a pat on the back, or whatever it is. But these people are nuts, and you've been calling it out.
Yeah, Scott, this is so alarming. So the first thing I want to point out is that they use the metric system, and this is intentional because they don't want Americans to truly understand how egregious their control will go and eviscerate our entire lives. So the first thing I want to point out is right now Americans are consuming on average about 127 kilograms of meat per year. We don't use kilograms in this country, so that means nothing to you and I. So let's tell people what that is. That's about 280 pounds of meat on an annual basis that the average American consumes. So that's about a little less than about 75% of a pound a day. So, 75% of 1 pound. So what they want us to go to is from 127 to 15.7 kilograms for the year. Now, 15.7 kilograms, Scott, do you know how much meat that is? That's 34 pounds of meat. Let's round it up to 35 pounds of meat for the year. This isn't even 3 pounds of meat a month. So divide that, not even 3 pounds by 30 days. You're not even talking about, 10 ounces or 5 ounces or even 1 ounce of meat a day. We're talking about they want to reduce us to less than 1 ounce of meat a day. So this is ludicrous on its face. And what we have to say is why? No one is asking the why, because they keep assuming that we've all accepted that agriculture and farming and methane gas from livestock is creating a massive problem with our ozone, and it's going to kill us all and warm up our planet. And yet the science is not there, Scott, and to expect Americans, and they're comparing us in this article, it's a Bloomberg article, they're comparing us to Nigeria, which is an up-and-coming country, 220 million people, will be a top 10 population in the next 10 years, but not there yet, and they're comparing us to the Republic of Congo. Like, you cannot compare America to Nigeria and the Republic of Congo and then make a valid comparison. Compare us to Paris, compare us to France, compare us to England, compare us to Dubai, compare us to other cultures that are more westernized, first world, and then maybe we can get some comparisons that are legitimate. But Congo and Nigeria, come on. So you wanting us to eat less than 3 pounds of meat. And so, Scott, the question becomes, where does the sustenance come from? And this is it. This is 100% a control matrix grid they're trying to put us into. And guess what? Just like you mentioned with the cars, independent ability to travel is too autonomous and too independent. Independent ability to have farm animals that can continue to feed you through shortages, famines, disasters, weather problems, all of that, they have to end. They must get everybody to the point of living within a 15-minute city with zero ability to raise, farm, or have livestock and cattle. This is 100% a control mechanism for the globalists to push us towards, again, total totalitarianism.
Right, and they think that the world's overpopulated by a lot. I mean, we're talking about, say, 8 billion people. They want to see it more like 500 million. I mean, that's pretty significant. So and I guarantee you they consider themselves part of the 500 million, right? They're not trying to get rid of themselves. And again, you're right about the 50 minutes it is. You're right about the fact that, yes, they're going to give us a carbon allowance for travel, which is insane. But here we are. Now, Rebecca, whatever anybody may say, the fact is that you have been out there because it's not hearsay. It's not crazy talk. It's not tinfoil cap stuff. You can go look at the black and white and they say it like it is. And here we are with our own government. We keep allocating money towards these ideas.
Well, and it's beyond, it's so egregious. It's so nefarious, Scott. It's beyond just them wanting to reduce our meat intake. They're literally now, and I won't have to tell your audience knows, they're literally now trying to basically adulterate all of our meat products anyways with all of this RNA vaccine type things that they're moving now towards the animals. I mean, this is an attack on our food supply and our supply chains. And literally, Americans, if we do not wake up, like it just can't be me that's saying it on your show. If people don't wake up and start going in their local communities and saying which person believes in this kind of thing when we're talking about voting in November, which I hate to go to the vote because it seems so worthless in the last several years. But the point is that if we do not, as a society, organize against this mammoth machine. It's at every level of society. It is globally sophisticated to the lowest levels of our local governments. And if we do not push back, we have lost our country. This is coming, Scott. This is happening.
Well, I'm not going to let it happen. You're not going to let it happen. So hopefully our voices are being heard. I really appreciate you bringing this stuff to us because you're one of the few people that's really brought it to a fine point. Thank you very much, Rebecca, for being on the show. We love having you. Rebecca Walser from Tampa, Florida. By now, you know, I've got my go-tos when we look at these markets, right? That's